Greetings, friends, and welcome to some more autumnal tales. Today I thought I would read from one of my own books, so I'll read from Kitchen Witch, Food, Folklore and Fairy Tale. And because it is getting chillier and we want perhaps a little more warmth, I was inspired to drink a little of my own coffee and invite you to do the same as we journey through a few tales of magical brews from tea, hot chocolate and coffee.
The Fables of the First Coffee. Coffee has had a rich history as it has travelled around the world, and there is a huge range of folk tales and superstitions that feature coffee. Perhaps it is its long history of use as a tool for divination that has imbued it with a certain mystical quality, a connection to the other world and the fantastic. Coffee can be an everyday magic. One coffee origin story involves a Moroccan Sufi mystic. When travelling in Ethiopia, the legend goes, he observed birds of exceptional vitality feeding on berries, and upon trying the berries himself, experienced the same vitality. In another story, a disciple was once exiled from Mecca to a desert cave. Starving, he chewed berries from nearby shrubbery, but found they were bitter. He discovered, however, that roasting and boiling them resulted in a fragrant brown liquid which was revitalizing and sustaining. His miracle discovery was held in great awe, and the disciple was allowed to return home and elevated to sainthood, whilst the coffee he discovered percolated throughout the world. In one more story, an Ethiopian goat herder noticed the energizing effects when his flock snacked on the bright red berries of a certain bush and tried the fruit himself. He brought the berries to a nearby monastery, but a monk, in disapproval, threw them onto the fire. But from that fire, an enticing aroma billowed as the berries roasted, and the remaining beans were raked from the embers, ground up and added to hot water, creating a beverage that kept one awake for hours, just the thing for those devoted to long hours of prayer. Coffee, like witches, has had its time of being condemned by the church, which saw its effects as akin to alcohol and drugs. Some reacted to this beverage with suspicion and alarm, and apparently local clergy condemned coffee when it came to Venice in 1615, along with intrepid European travellers from the mysterious and mystical lands of the East, as they were distrustful of this dark, exotic, and intoxicating liquor. I particularly enjoy the story that coffee controversy was so great that Pope Clement was asked to assist. He decided to taste the beverage before making a judgment, and finding the drink satisfying, he gave it papal approval and blessed coffee beans. With his blessing, coffee was free to be drunk by Catholics around the world. This story, like many legends, can't be authenticated, but it's still one of the more pleasant papal tales. Despite the controversy, coffee houses quickly became centres of social activity in the major cities of England and through Europe in the 1600s. For the price of a cup of coffee, one could engage in stimulating conversation, games, and perhaps most crucially, gossiping, arguing, and discussing the breaking news of the day. These coffee houses became known as a place to catch up on news of the world and discuss ideas, creating a link between coffee and creative thought, ideas, and inspiration, still very much alive today amongst artists, writers, and business people as creative rocket fuel. French historian Jules Michelet, who also wrote a very poetic book about witches, La Sorcière, in 1862, saw coffee as mighty nourishment of the brain, which, unlike other spirits, heightens purity and lucidity. Coffee, which clears the clouds of the imagination and their gloomy weight, which illuminates reality of things suddenly with a flash of truth. Chocolate. Ah, precious chocolate. Even with no knowledge of its origins, many of us would agree that it is special and sacred. The Latin name of the cacao plant, Theobroma cacao, means food of the gods. This would not have been its original name, originating from Central America as it does. As always with the origins of words, there is hot debate on this. Etymologists trace the origin of the word chocolate to the Mesoamerican words such as chocolatl, which may refer to drinks brewed from cacao beans. The ancient civilizations such as Olmec, Mayan, and Aztec all celebrated the powers of cacao. Mayans saw chocolate as the drink of the gods, brewing roasted and ground cacao seeds mixed with chilies, honey, and spices, pouring the liquid from one pot to another, creating a thick and foamy draught. The Mayan goddess of cacao, Ishkakao, literally cacao woman, was earth goddess and mother of the abundance of cacao and all foods. During menopause and childbirth, women drank chocolate to fortify themselves. Carvings and decorations suggest that Aztec dignitaries consumed chocolate as an offering to the great god of the forest, Quetzalcoatl, as well as the goddess of fertility, Xochiquetzal, and that cacao was hugely valuable and used as currency. Expeditions in the 1500s brought cacao to Europe and the wider world. Chocolate, a distortion of some of the suggested roots of the original Mesoamerican names, was often mixed with sugar, honey, vanilla, and cinnamon, and it quickly became popular among the wealthy who could afford it and the sweeteners that it needed. When it reached the British Isles, special chocolate houses appeared even earlier than the popular coffee houses I mentioned earlier. As the trend spread, many nations set up cacao plantations in countries along the equator. In the present day, you may have seen cacao ceremonies offered as spiritual rituals, workshops, and at retreats and festivals. They are very popular, but this is no new age idea. Like many of the best ideas, it is ancient and sacred in its origins. Luxurious cacao mixed with the likes of cinnamon, cardamom, and anise seeds, brewed and consumed with reverence. With this magic of intention, of creating something with care and love, cacao has, for some, come full circle. Journeying from the sacred medicine of nobility to sumptuous treat and everyday snack, and for some, back to the sacred and ceremony once again. Its magical powers and ability to enchant are celebrated in many fictional works, including Laura Esquivel's Like Water for Chocolate and Joanna Harris's Chocolat, to name just a couple of my favourites, where women, like Tita and Vianne, weave magic and love into their creations and respect the power of the food that they prepare. Tea and sympathy. Tea, although not a native plant to the British Isles, it originates from Asia, has become a fundamental part of our culture here. Tea, coffee, and chocolate all arrived in the British Isles around the 1600s, and each became popular with certain groups in society. At first, tea was a treat for nobility, who could afford the sugar and sweet treats that turned taking tea into a real occasion. At that time, coffee was the cheaper beverage, but as prices dropped with trading deals and colonialism, tea was, by the 1800s, consumed by virtually everyone, from royalty to factory worker to farmer. and it continues to be popular today and available to all, and is pretty much considered a cure for everything, from broken hearts to a shock, to offer visitors with biscuits, a morning staple, and an afternoon refreshment. In England, there are cream teas, a pot of tea accompanied by scones, cream, and jam, afternoon tea with sandwiches and dainty cakes to tide one over until evening meals, tea time, another name for supper or dinner, not to mention the tea dance, tea party, tea breaks, and 11s. When one stops for a short break at 11, often for a cup of tea and a biscuit, or maybe a toasted tea cake. To offer tea and sympathy is to offer care, a kindly ear, and a cuppa to someone who is upset. I could write a whole chapter here about the power of a nice cup of tea, but this quote somehow to me just says it perfectly. The true spiritual home of the teapot is surely in a softly lighted room, between a deep armchair and a sofa, 2 cups only, awaiting their fragrant infusion, while the clock points nearer to 6 than 5, and a wood fire flickers sympathetically upon the hearth. That was a short quote from Kitchen Essays by Agnes Jekyll, written back in 1922, and this is the simple, beautiful magic that can be found at the hearth and within a warm cup. Those were just a few words from within my book, Kitchen Witch, Food, Folklore and Fairy Tale, and I hope that you feel inspired to enjoy your next hot cup, your next favourite beverage, and perhaps find the book for yourself and enjoy a few more tales of magical brews. But for now, I thank you for joining me, and I hope you continue to have a beautiful and warm autumnal season. Thank you, and goodbye for now.